Hey guys, Kumi here. And I've been hearing on Twitter lately that, besides the whole 2 Mad drama with him being apparently going schizo like he's been playing War Thunder again, I've been hearing that Skullgirls, like a personal game of mine, has made an update that changed a lot of things lately. And a lot of people are not happy. They changed the black egrets, a prominent faction in Skullgirls universe, their armbands and their logo, which has a red and black and white color palette. They changed that to some degree. Now, I didn't check in game recently how much they changed it, but they removed the armbands going by the patch notes they released on Twitter and on the forums, saying that it was a little too close to Nazi imagery. The armbands, the red and black and white color palettes. It was a little too close to swastikas and stuff like that. So just like, yeah, we're gonna change that, which me personally I don't like because it's just kind of like we'll get there in a second. Another change they made was with another character named Big Ban, and change how his scene went down when he was brutally beaten by his fellow officers for trying to rat them out. Because in the mobile game, for some context and lore, Big Ben was going to expose his partners and the people in the precinct because they were dirty cops, and he was like the only like clean one. So they pretty much lure him out and beat him pretty much to death, or so they thought. But they thought they'd get rid of that because it has some racial implications. And I don't think it was I don't think it was racist to begin with. Sure, Big Ben is a black man and he got beaten by white cops, but I don't think that was racist in any slightness. I think it's one of those you're overthinking it kind of situations. I just see it as a good cop being beaten to death because he's trying to rat out the precinct. Like, any dirty cop will kill any good cop, no matter what race, gender, or orientation they are. I think it's just that surface level. I don't think it was anything with deep ass racism, And another thing is they want to turn down the sexuality in the game. Not a lot, but just a little bit to appeal to a wider audience. In the case with Philia and her beginning her cutscene, where you can see one of the Medici men manhandling her a little bit, grabbing her little like thigh and shit, and a little penny shot here and there. They wanted to turn that down a little bit for the sexualization of some of the characters who I remember correctly, some of them are young, not absolutely illegal, but close enough. But this still have thrown people into a tizzy about it a lot because they believe that Skullgirls is changing all for the worse and thinking that they're getting rid of what made their game. And a lot of people are divided in the argument, saying that on one half, they're entitled to their changes. Of course, they want to tone it down a little bit. Some even thinking that they're probably ashamed of what they made. Others think they should embrace who they are because, honestly, being lewd and edgy is what made Skullgirls. I mean, this is still in the midst of going at least a couple of years later. Dead or Alive will effectively die out when the last game was pretty much not what it used to be in the Saga and Current games. So Skullgirls was pretty much like the only like lewd and edgy game that was still on the brink, that didn't die a slow, lonely death at the hands of the localization and translation companies. But people are agree with this and just saying that they're falling off. This is the end of Skullgirls. This is the death of a good game. And me personally, now getting to the point, I don't agree with it in the slightest. Well, I don't agree with both sides. On one side, I agree with because it's just like, like I played Skullgirls like a long time ago, back during when Vine was still out. I remember buying it with Danganronpa 1 and 2 for Steam, and I loved every second of that game. It was specifically Second Encore. I got on a good deal, and I've been playing it since on PC. And I like how the game was. I like how the story was told, the lore, the world, the characters. I didn't think of it as just a lewd, edgy game. I just thought of it as a fun fighting game and an interesting IP. So when I saw the changes, I was a little disappointed that they're changing it because it what made their game. Is what made me so interested into the characters a little bit, and how the game was. It was interesting to look at. So I agree with the sentiment of they shouldn't change what they made. Hell, I will go as far as to say they shouldn't be ashamed of what they made. They have made gold. Like, this fighting game has stayed relevant for God knows how many years it's been out. Like the last time I saw this game, it was on a fucking like Game Informer magazine when they talked about it. Can you really say? Can you really say about any other fighting game that has not been a mobile game? Like Skullgirls is a good fighting game. Only on the Grounds has been a fun IP. It has its own webtoon. It has its own mobile game, which varies in degrees of content. Like the fact that this game has lasted this long for so many years compared to like any other fighting game like Street Fighter, Tekken, Dragon Ball The Fighters, Dead or Alive, any Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue, so on and so forth. You know, any other fighting game that would do like 3+ sequels compared to Skullgirls, who still has the one game and the mobile game. It has potential. It has what it is good. So to me, it's honestly is a letdown that they're changing so much of its original self to kind of appeal to the wider audience, you know. But on the other hand, I see it as more like understandable. You know, it's like you at some point you gotta start breaking in more money. You still gotta do more with this IP. You gotta turn it down a little bit. I see it as like I'm seeing it as like they don't want to do it, but I'm seeing it as they have to do it to try to appeal to the people, you know. Not because apparently in the year 2023, the thought of sexuality has been so greatly repressed and so, you know, so have been so stifled. It's been kind of borderline, just kind of painful. Sure, you could say I'd be eating shit right now because a lie, but come on, look at the world for like 5 minutes. Like sexual things in video games have been so badly oppressed that people, companies are going out the way to make ugly characters just to make sure people don't bitch about them. I mean, remember the whole argument and debacle of why they should stop making sexy video game characters? Yeah, I feel like Skullgirls is going through that kind of thing. They're turning down the lewdness so they won't be caught with a fire in their ass about saying you're making sexy game characters and shit like that, and you're making people offended or some dumb people or some dumb shite. And I'm just like, I get it. You have to appeal to the woke cast, which I hate that you are, but you know, I can't exactly say you shouldn't. You know, you try to get every cent you can, appeal to anybody who is willing to listen, regardless of your principles. But you know, to each of their own. I think at the end of the day, for me, the only thing I wish I could have for this update is the option to let it be a switch, you know, like a turn on, turn off button. Because at least then, I think that could end a lot of the arguments and the debates and all the backlash they're getting so far, courtesy of this update. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind if I go into the options and it'd be like, all right, turn on if you want the new version, or turn off if you want like the uncensored cut. I would prefer to have that, because that way that could leave me, you know, with the original game as it was originally meant to be, instead of just being the game that what the company wants it to be or has to be. You know, I think companies should do that instead of going out the way to censor shit. Why not just make things like a turn off button? You know, it's just like leave it, let people decide on how they want to enjoy their experience. Stop making them choices for us, because it just makes it a lot worse when people have to go through it and hate the new changes, like what it is now. I think overall the Skullgirl situation won't be too much to handle. I don't think it'll be too crazy going forward, but I'm hoping that it'll eventually shimmer down and they'll probably see their mistakes and probably change a few things, or make it an optional slider, or hell, go as far as to issue an apology or more in depth, or I guess people are just gonna be like, it is what it is, and just let it happen. But that's gonna be it for now. That's like the only thing I could talk about. It's kind of ironic. I was gonna talk about the whole, you know, Katrina thing. You know, that one dumb localizer translator chick who keeps fucking up animes. Oh, I was gonna talk about that, but I might set it for tomorrow. But until then, I have been your host with the most. Until next time, I bid you adieu.